We have all experienced a moment when a shift occurred, something that stopped us in our tracks and created a moment that led us to change direction, experience an awakening, or brought us much needed clarity. Tell me a story are empowering and impactful stories that changed everything. Join our host, Karina Felix, as she creates space for you to tell your story. And now, your host, Karina Felix.
Hello and welcome to Tell Me a Story. And like always, we're going to dive right in. And today we have Nandini. And as I usually say, I'm out of here. It's your turn. See you in a bit.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm telling a story of challenge, angels, miracles, but also of anger, a lot of anger. But importantly, a story of healing and lessons learned. So, first, the challenge. Several years ago, my husband was receiving treatment for high blood pressure, and he was prescribed a medication that had a very serious side effect of kidney cancer. When I read the literature, I asked him, I said, "Are you sure you really want to take this medication?" And his answer was, "I really do not have a choice." I accepted his wishes. I accepted the approach that he wanted to take, to his ailment. So fast forward a few years, and I think you can guess where this story is going. He actually contracted kidney cancer. So that was a challenge. It was very, very challenging. He had to have an ablation on the kidney to remove the tumor, and because the kidney had deteriorated to such an extent, he was put on dialysis. It was something that he really, really, really did not want to do. It was destroying him emotionally, mentally. But he finally accepted when his health became so very poor and his lungs were filling up with fluid. And the doctors were saying to him, "You have to have this dialysis now. The toxins, the poison in your body is to an extent where it will kill you if you do not go on dialysis." He finally accepted that, yes, I would do this dialysis. And looking back, I know that he made that decision because he felt it was something that he needed to do for me. He needed to be here for me. So, because he was not really very willing to do this dialysis, he did not do well on it at all. I'm sure many of you have known people who have been on dialysis and they've been, fairly good. They've done fairly well on it, but he didn't. He really suffered. He suffered a lot. He was not doing well, and his health was just deteriorating more and more and more. So the angels. The angels were my neighbors who really went way beyond anything that could have been expected of them. There were nights where I had to call them. They would have already been in bed. My husband would have been on the floor, not able to get up, and me not being able to lift him. And I'd call my neighbors, and they would come over and help me. And this happened quite a few times, and they were always there for us. Another angel in my life was my brother, who helped me with the long trips to Cleveland Clinic because my husband was receiving treatment there as he was being assessed for going onto the donor list. They have to do an array of tests to ensure that this person was suitable for a donor kidney, and that the kidney disease was the only thing that was going on, and he didn't have any other health issues. Cleveland Clinic is almost 2 hours away from where we live. The drive is a horrendous drive because of the traffic, because of the roadworks that were going on at the time. And I'm so very grateful that my brother was there to take that burden off of me many, many times, so that I could actually rest a little and maintain some form of sanity. And then the miracle that came was that he was called for a donor kidney after just 2 years of being on dialysis. For him, it was an eternity, but I had heard stories of people being on the donor list for years, for multiples of years of what he had been, for the length of time that he had been on the donor list. The recovery process was excruciating. It was not easy. It was very, very difficult because, as you can imagine, it is a major surgery. But we got through it. Again, my neighbors were there to support us through that. And, my brother and my family, I'm so grateful to them for that. And the other miracle was that his improvement was just beyond anything that his medical team expected. They kept saying, that we've never really seen this kind of recovery. We'd expect people to have, this issue and that issue and the other issue, and, risks of rejection beginning to show up, and then, specific steps having to be taken to deal with that. But, thank the heavens, it has just been smooth sailing for him, and absolutely a miraculous recovery. I always say that he is a walking miracle. So where does the anger come in all of this? Well, the anger in me was that when he was first told that his high blood pressure was affecting his kidneys, he never ever told me how serious it was. This was, way back when we were still living in London. We're living now in Palm Beach in Florida. He never told me how serious it was. If he had told me that, maybe I would have, tried to influence his decision to go on that medication with that very serious side effect more. But it is what it is. I just did not know. And the other anger that came up was because I had my own health issues, very serious chronic condition, where I took control of my health. I am an absolute believer in natural healing, in alternative and holistic approaches to health. And I was able to manage and heal a very chronic condition in a way that every doctor told me was not possible. They told me that I would need to have different procedures done. They told me that I would have to go on very, very strong medication with also very serious side effects. And I said, no, that is not the path for me. And I was angry because my husband had witnessed this journey of mine, this process that I had gone through. And I was a living testament to the power of holistic healing. And to my mind, I felt like he really did not take that on board. He learned nothing from it. So I was very angry about that, particularly when, his health had deteriorated to such an extent, and managing his illness, was extremely, extremely challenging. So the anger came about, because of that. And also, now that he was so entrenched in this system, this allopathic medical system, and although he he has had this miraculous recovery from his kidneys, and he's received this donor kidney, one of the drugs that he has to take, which will try to ensure that he doesn't go into rejection, actually causes his glucose levels to rise. So now he is at the risk of diabetes. So he has to manage that. I mean, when I look at the number of medications that he's on a daily basis, I really, really have to make a conscious effort not to think of all the side effects that those medications carry. I really have to make a conscious effort to put it out of my mind, to absolutely believe in my heart that none of those things will happen to him, which is difficult because he suffered a serious side effect from the medication that he was on so many years ago. So there was all this anger. The healing, the healing came about. I'm a firm believer, as I said, in holistic healing, holistic being mind, body, spirit. And I realized that the anger that I was feeling really was hurting me more than anybody else. It served no purpose. And I realized that I had to get to terms with that anger. And I had to accept, I had to do a lot of acceptance. Acceptance of my husband for the wonderful person that he is, and accept that no matter what I wish, for him, the ways that I wish that he was different and more like me was really not helpful. You know, I wouldn't expect him, and he has never expected me to be more like him. When I chose my path of holistic healing, he supported me through it. He worked in the medical field and he has a belief in the medical system. He saw me going against that and he never ever tried to pull me away from it. He respected my wishes. And here I am being very angry that he did not follow the path that I chose for myself, which goes against all of the beliefs that I have, but we are human. We make mistakes. We fail sometimes in the things that we really believe in. So I had to accept that. It's a continuous process. I'm accepting that no matter how difficult things were, it was the way that it was meant to be. And I have to accept that the decisions that he made in not telling me how serious his illness was and not, waiting for it to get to the point where he had to go on dialysis for me to fully understand exactly what was going on, that he was doing it, as he said, to protect me. I have to accept that he did it with no intentions of ever putting me through this and, putting us through this. And, there was no malintent. So I've had to accept that. And the lessons that I've learned is that we are much stronger than we ever allow ourselves to believe, to imagine. Many people have said to me, "You're so strong, you're so strong, you're so strong." And my answer to them is, we never understand how strong we are until strong is all we can be. I've come to realize that whereas women may be physically weaker than men, and we are called the weaker sex because of that, actually it is the women who are mentally and emotionally stronger than the men. We really protect them, we support them. And I've learned that anger is a poison that hurts us more than anybody else. And another part of healing is forgiveness. Forgiveness. And the forgiveness that I've had to practice is mostly forgiveness of myself. I've had to forgive myself for wanting things to be different. I'm happy that things have worked out well. I try not to worry about, the medications that he's on, and I try not to worry about what would happen in the future. As a student of metaphysics, I speak all the time of living in the present, and I have to practice what I preach. Today, he is well, and I am very, very grateful for that. I'm very happy for what we have today. So I hope that in sharing this story with you, that you too could believe that miracles do happen and angels do exist, and that everything works out for the best in the end. And through the process, through the struggles, we learn so much about ourselves, which I guess is really the purpose of why we are here.
Wow, that was what a story. And I could imagine frustrating, scary. I mean, you guys are young, you're a young couple, and I'm sure you went through a moment of thinking, what if he's not here, and how does my life looks like without him?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about that journey.
Um, I really could not focus on anything apart from what we were going through in the present moment. I know that so many people looked at him and thought, "You're not going to make it." He was seriously, seriously ill. And a lot of people thought that he wasn't going to make it. My neighbor constantly says to me what a miracle he is, because, as I said, they saw him at his worst,
Right.
and they always say to me, this is such a turnaround. He was in ICU a couple times, and maybe even more than a couple times. And I was looking back at an email, and I was saying to this person, "I'm sorry I can't make that meeting because, my husband is in ICU." And I was looking at the date, and I could not remember why he was in ICU, what was going on at the time. It was all a blur. And I guess this is how we cope.
Right.
There's only so much that we can remember and so much we can take on. And I was mentioning this to my neighbor, and she said, "I remember. I remember why he was there. I remember what he was like, and we didn't think he would make it, you know? So he really, really is a walking miracle."
Right. How did you, like, at what point did you identify this anger? Because this anger lingered long after,
Yes.
probably kind of still a little bit, kind of
It's
now,
it's
now
a process. I mean, I was angry, I guess, if I think about it, way back in London when we were still there, and he decided to take this medication. I didn't acknowledge it at the time, but I guess there was a part of me that was, there you have a choice. You can go down a different route, you know. Um, by the time, we moved here and his health had deteriorated to such an extent, one of the things that I was investigating was Ayurvedic medicine. And everyone that I consulted said, if only we had known before, if his kidneys were functioning, we could have helped to improve that functioning with, the herbs and the natural medicines. But because it had deteriorated to such an extent, there really wasn't anything that could be done. He needed the allopathic medication to just keep him alive. He needed the dialysis to keep
Right.
functioning.
So what modalities are you using to deal with this? It's almost like a revelation to you, because I don't think you realize how angry you were until it
Yeah.
started to affect you in a different way, right? It
Yes.
started showing up for you in a very, so why don't you actually give a little thing of how it
Well,
started to
my
show up for
health,
you later?
my
Your
health.
own personal health.
Yes, my personal health started to suffer. And because I had gone through that chronic illness so many years ago, it's like, I promised myself that I would never allow myself to become seriously ill again. I would always recognize the root cause of what was causing me, because I do believe, the mind affects the body and vice versa. So when my own health started to suffer, I realized, hang on a minute, this is coming from something that I am experiencing. And I recognized that it was the anger that I was not acknowledging, and I had to process it. And anger, I've heard many people say that anger is just unexpressed grief. And I realized that I really, really did not give myself the space to cry.
Right.
I never did it. um, I guess that's why everybody ever always said to me, you're so strong, because they never saw me break down. They saw me
Right.
coping, they saw me managing, they saw me doing what I needed to do. So, I was hearing this all the time, which was good to hear, it gave me strength. But looking back, I realized that I never allowed myself to grieve.
Right.
You know, even when he told me, I do not want to do this dialysis, I'm ready to die. He actually said that to me. I didn't even cry then. Um, I'm just so very grateful that it's been, a good ending.
Thank you so much for sharing and coming on. I know this was not easy for you because you're such a laid back. You just said it. You don't show it, and you dealt with that for years and years and never came out and just be open with this. And I hope this was a healing moment for you
I
to
I
accept
hope that
yourself.
it brings some kind of hope to others who hear this story. As writers, we know that sharing stories is really therapeutic and cathartic, and it helps people. Um,
In
so many people have
communication,
told me,
you mentioned the fact that there was a gap in the communication is why a lot of this happened, because people
yes,
don't share what's really going on, how they're feeling,
hmm,
whether sick or whatever that is. We don't share enough and we don't let people know, and sometimes it's too late.
yes,
So we have to learn to communicate too what's happening. And we're here to help each other, right? We're here to help as a
absolutely.
community, and we don't have to do anything alone anymore. But yet a lot of us are still, I don't think it's so much ego based as in, like, we don't want to bother people.
Hmm,
but
hmm.
but I always believe that sometimes it's not the people we're bothering. We're giving other people a chance to shine when where they could shine, and we're not giving them the opportunity to step up and help us. So, yeah, thank you so much again, Nandini. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really hope that my story provides some inspiration to somebody.
Excellent. Thank you again.
Bye bye.
And yes, that was Nandini. And what another amazing story we had today again in Tell Us a Story. If you have a story to share, please reach out to me, and please come out here and tell us your story, because it is very important that we share stuff like this and know that we are never alone in any endeavor. We all have issues, and only as a community do we can move forward from here. So, again, thank you once more for tuning in to Tell Me a Story.
Thank you for watching Tell Me a Story.